people of the world. Today is another week of TVP UK Study Session. Every week in UK chapter of TVP supporters, we will discuss certain frequently asked questions on the Venus Project's official website. This week, it's another three. It's going to be questions 82, 83, and 84. The format of this is very simple. We give these three questions every week. People answer them as best they can without looking at the answer. We answer them, and the night of the hangout, we will look at the answers and compare them to what we have initially given. So, with me today are Aiden, Mick, and Nick. Myself, my name is Ludas. Aiden, Mick, and myself are POCs, points of contact in UK. Nick is a very welcome supporter. We're also joined by Hudi, a very welcome addition too. So without further ado, I suppose let's get on with the questions, shall we? Let's see. 82 asks, would the Venus Project be for deviants? You guys really can decide. If you wish to just shoot, if you're ready for your question, do so. If you want to follow the hierarchical structure, then Nick would be first.
Okay, so would it be for deviants? I said, well, what's a deviant? Very hard to say. If it's really asking the question in RB, will people be uniform? The answer is no.
And I said, firstly, a place where they wouldn't be described as deviants or punished for being deviant, as people might define that word today. Resource-based economy would be a place where someone acting in a way that upset people would be helped to understand firstly themselves and the world around them. For people who hurt people, I guess we would rehabilitate instead of punishing a person like we do today.
I was deliberately trying to keep all my answers short this week to make a change. So I wrote, I think firstly we have to look at what creates deviant behaviour. Much if not all of the conditions that create this behaviour would not exist in a resource-based economy.
Very fair statement. Okay. Well, I've written down, this is the bane of communication, vague language. Deviates in science, driving, bowling, lovemaking. Also, if by deviant you simply mean different, then that's even more vague. Different isn't always bad, it's just different. The question isn't clear. Otherwise, I would agree with the rest of you folks who actually made some effort to answer the question. For me personally, I just don't want to get into that because I just really genuinely have no idea what they're asking. Huri, would you like to make a vocal addition? What would you say? Would there be deviants in the Venus Project?
I'm not sure about the question either. I would go with a mix of your answer with the efforts of the other guys.
Alright, I was scrolling in the official website. Okay, so the answer, as would be per style of Jacques Fresco, is quite lengthy. You guys, any volunteers, takers for reading, or shall I do it?
I like reading.
Do it, please.
TVP FAQ number 82, would the Venus Project be for deviants? James Harvey Robinson believed that the proper study of man was man. There is no evidence to support this statement. A plant cannot grow of its own accord. It requires an environment of soil, nutrients, sunlight, etc. Any plant put in the polar regions will not grow no matter how well endowed it is genetically. Human beings are subject to the same physical laws that govern the entire evolutionary process. Human behavior and values are not self-generating. They are byproducts of culture. Perhaps future historians will look upon us as deviants with our artificialities, violence and superstitions, a society that spends a great deal of its income on military expenditure when the methods of science could be applied to bridge the difference between nations. Deviant and socially offensive behaviours are byproducts of deprivation or the fear of it. The Venus Project proposes the redesign of education in which people will be provided with the interrelationship of living systems as a symbiotic whole. Children brought up with bigotry, racism or greed will no longer manifest patterns of behaviour that are socially offensive. For example, even the most sophisticated of German families were fighting over food in garbage cans near the end of World War II. Mass lynching in the South was also a byproduct of indoctrination. The question that remains is how much of our value system is programmed by our society's values designed to perpetuate existing and established institutions. It is not human nature but rather human behaviour that we have to be concerned with, and that can easily be changed by an appropriate and relevant education and environment which coincides with the carrying capacity of the earth. If you elect honourable, ethical people to office but there is no support in the environment to implement the decent laws passed, they cannot be adhered to. For example, if there is not enough arable land to grow food, then behaviour will revert to stealing and corruption to attain what food there is.
Plenty of words. Well, first I actually have a question. I wouldn't really rush to compare our answers that much. Just to, well, I mean, in my screen, I see from left to right, Aiden, Cutie, Mick, Nick, myself, okay? So, Aiden, you personally, did you actually extract meaning from this? Do you think it actually follows and answers the question adequately? To you. You're muted, brother.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's quite good to me. Like, if you go down the paragraphs, you can sum it up. Like, the first one is like, okay, mechanistic point of view. The second one is general semantics. What the hell is a deviant? The third one is education and human behavior. Fourth one's pretty much the same. And the last one is what the hell's morals? And I think to me that was good. I could see basically all of our answers in there.
Very good. Cutie, care to drop some views of your own?
Yeah, I think I was not sure about the term deviant, but I think it means someone that has like a what is considered a aberrant behavior, like that deviates from what is expected, and I think it poses well the point that the behavior derives from the environment and education. So I think it does answer the question. To find the deviant term.
Okay. Just so you brought up a very good point, by the way. I did have to, midstream, as Mick was reading the official answer, I looked up the definition for deviation, and it says the following: the action of departing from an established course or accepted standard. Now, the question that was asked in terms of, by the way, the terminology used already is somewhat flawed. So it's not, is the Venus Project for deviants? It can't be the question, because the Venus Project is a location. It's a geographical location. It's an organization which resides in Venus in Florida. So you can't ask, yeah, so it's not nonsensical. But if the concept is, in fact, is a resource-based economy, the Venus Project proposals are for deviance, then you can start to understand. So if deviation is, in fact, action of departing from an established course or accepted standard, then the accepted standard would be taking interest in Earth, its well-being, and its well-being of its inhabitants. And if that's the course, if that's the accepted standard, then I don't really see the deviation moving in anywhere. I mean, the deviation might be different ways of researching such subjects, but the subjects won't be how to bomb each other. It will literally be how to bypass such behavior by engineering the environment accordingly, according to what we want the environment to do for us, for the Earth. All right, so that's enough of my ramble. Mick and Nick, you got more input?
I was just going to look at the line. He says, deviant and socially offensive behaviours are byproducts of deprivation or the fear of it. So, like, I think there's a question, I don't know whether it's before or after this one, about somebody McVie. Timothy McVie, and in the second question it says that this guy was brought up with a normal upbringing. And he like, I just clicked on Wikipedia, so it could be wrong, but it was saying that he went to war, and shit like that's traumatic. So yeah, I'd say it was a byproduct of his, I don't know, like he would, yeah, I suppose you'd have to read the Wikipedia article on him, but I think he didn't like the way things were at the time. My brain's not working tonight, sorry boys. But like, people do things when they disagree with something, when something's upsetting them, when something they feel is not right. Whereas, like you just said, if we're being fed, if we've got a life where we're not worried about losing our homes, or us not being able to eat, or not being able to relax and sleep and deal with stress and stuff, then yeah, that causes deviance. But if in a resource-based economy, where we've got somewhere to sleep, we can travel, we can learn, we've got time to learn, as brains are functioning, unlike mine tonight, then I think there'll be, even if there are deviants, like say after all the cities are built in the world, then I think there'll be a lot less than there is in this system, where they don't give a fuck what deviants do. They just fucking chop their head off, shove them in a prison, whatever, beat the shit out of them in gangs. So for me, I think the person asking the question is kind of trying to get at, like, oh, you won't be able to deal with everybody. No, we won't, but there'll be a lot less people to deal with than we've got in this society.
Well stated. I know that Hiri and Aiden are waiting to chime in. Nick, you're the last in the, so to speak, queue.
Well, I was just sort of quietly laughing to myself about the fact that, yeah, when I see a question like that, I know that Jack's going to be giving a long answer. You know, I mean, he could have just said no. You know, that would have sorted it out. But you know, like he has a tendency to go in depth, and you know, I tend to agree a lot with what Aidan said. You can see what points he's covering when you break it down. And obviously we're going to touch on the next question as well, with you know, all these sort of things, you know, because when you look at, you know, agitators and what are they going to do, you know, deviants, what are they going to do? I mean, as Mick said, if you're well fed and you know you've got, you know, warmth and you can do as you please, so to speak, where's the deviation going to come in, you know? And I think, you know, someone who is showing some kind of deviant behaviour, well, there's a simple thing to do, isn't there? You know, what do you want? You know, it's like, what do you actually want? You know, it's like ISIS with their lovely bigoted bombing. What do they want? They want us to stop bombing them. Well, that seems pretty fair, really. You know, I mean, you know, I mean, the way they're dealing with it might not be, you know, we might not like that, but then that's their point, isn't it? You know, and then bombing them again will create a generation of people who hate the people that were bombing them, and it perpetuates it. In our resource-based economy, it's just much simpler, isn't it? It's clear. What do you want? So, well, I want to go around mindlessly killing people. Well, okay, we can do a really good simulation of that. We really can. Put these goggles on, go in there. There you go murder people. Yeah, you happy? Because really, what happens? Like if you're the one bloke who wants to kill everybody, and then what? You're the one bloke left on the planet. Well, yeah, it's lonely, isn't it? So, people don't actually want to do this, do they? You want your mates there. So what is this deviant behaviour? It's, it shouldn't, and almost certainly doesn't exist in a resource-based economy. And hey, Thomas.
All right. Well put. Well put. Okay. Well, here you've been waiting to express something. Please go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that in a resource-based economy, like society that Jacques talk about, Venus Project talks about, it seems like there's a recognition of that we are different. We maybe have differences, and so there's no such as a norm like you have to be like this. So it seems to me like you said. Does it deviant? Does it mean different? If it means different, so it brings a whole lot more questions. But it's about recognizing that it's different. So I think the concept vanishes of deviating. It's variety, like different. I mean, uh, is it clear?
I think part way maybe. So you're saying essentially once there's no need to describe a certain thing or concept or behavior, there is no need for a definition either. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think he is, and I guess what I was just going to say that and it's kind of like what Mick said and the other guy, which is, well, they said he was brought up with a normal upbringing. It's just ridiculous. There's no such thing as a normal upbringing. There's also no such thing as a normal person to be a deviant from. So kind of those things will go to the side.
No, it's a great example to give because obviously, what's the vanilla? What's the vanilla expression of a human? You know what I mean? And if we're familiar with the theory of evolution, all of a sudden you know that that's not even possible to be discussed. Then you go back to atoms, and then what? Go back to quarks? Go back to quanta? It's so not really a sensible discussion. But yeah, it's very useful contributions you guys actually made. But otherwise, I agree with Aidan. Actually, looking back directly at the questions and the answers you folks gave, comparing them to the official answer, there's a little bits of everyone's logic in the official statement. So if there aren't any more questions, any more little sweeps under the leg, so to speak, you want to trip us up logically, you want to give a far off question or something like that, we could move on to the 83. That alright with everyone?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright. Okay. Question 83. What would be done with that percentage of society that would be agitators or malcontent, such as Timothy McVeigh, or McVeigh, I'm really not sure how to read this, who were brought up with a normal upbringing? Alright, this time, just to sort of get everything in perspective, Nick, you're up first.
Okay, dokes. A normal upbringing in a resource-based economy would differ greatly from what we consider a normal upbringing today, whatever a bloody normal upbringing is. Again, many, if not all of the conditions that create such abhorrent behaviours just simply wouldn't exist. Keeping it short this week.
Okay, Aiden.
Yeah. So also on the keeping it short. So any people with values that are very different from the population, so that they are dangerous to themselves or others, would be helped. The factors which generated the values in question will be studied, and their kind of effects would hopefully be alleviated for anyone else in the future, as well as to rehabilitate the person involved.
Okay, I believe, yeah, Mick.
From the very little I've read about Timothy McVeigh, he'd been to war, something that I would see as traumatic, and which is something that I believe affects people's behaviour. Again, I would speculate that people would be rehabilitated rather than punished. I think if people are taught about human behaviour so they can understand themselves and other people, then they're more able to forgive and be understanding. And maybe if people were also taught about why the world is the way it is and given the opportunity to solve problems rather than like capitalism where we see a problem and have no say in what the politicians do about the problem, for example killing people or bombing people in retaliation.
Agreed. Okay. I have to warn, I'll be somewhat abrupt, I think. I'm not very polite. Normal upbringing. Yeah, I quoted because that's what it said in the question. Timothy McVeigh joined the Army in 1988, took part in Operation Desert Storm, and was discharged in 1991. The link I used, I'm not entirely sure how to share this in Google+, was www.biography.com and then McVeigh. I said read about shell shock, what it does to soldiers and how it affects their behavior after and or during war. I see nothing other than another painful example of cause and effect. His environment wasn't a monastery. It wasn't a log cabin in a valley. It wasn't in a socially cohesive country. He was born in America, the "we know what you need and we'll sell it to you" capital of the world. So no, he's not an agitator, a terrorist, or anything other vague and judgment-riddled. He is, as Jacques points out about many a person, a product of his culture. If one's culture happens to be at war, this will reflect in a variety of ways. The bombing is in that variety. In a resource-based economy, environment is arranged so there is no way to inspire anyone to behave in ways which are detrimental to the earth and its inhabitants, aka no bombings. Cutie?
Yeah, great answers. I think they all answered. I think I would add that today normal upbringing is questionable. What's normal? Many things people say, oh, it's normal, even like really around us. But you think about them, and they're really fucked up. They really generate some really weird behaviors. Quote weird, right? But so yeah, we have to question what's normal today and the values and the in a resource-based economy, the values are vastly different. So that's all it is all about, changing the values and changing the environment to generate desired values and behaviors. Let's say positive.
Well stated, okay. Aiden?
Yeah, just wanted to just about the person you're going to ask this question. Well, my mum said basically the same thing to me when I was trying to explain to her about nature versus nurture and all that stuff, human behavior. And she goes, "Yeah, but you and your brother, you both grew up here, and you're completely different." And it's just something that people say. When I said, "Really? Is it really the same? Did we go to the same school every single day?" She's like, "Oh, no, obviously obviously not. But it's just something that people today can't see generally. Well, my mum's not stupid, but it's just so it comes through the education. So hopefully this kind of question will end up going away.
No, it's well stated. I personally find myself many times wondering why would this not be clear, but it isn't. It just takes painfully and unfortunately, if you still want to keep yourself in the loop of what people call pulse of society, however sick and poisonous it is, and it can get poisonous, unless you are at least a little bit curious about what is going on, you're kind of going to lose the trend. It's going to be more difficult to observe what is happening as opposed to what people are actually doing, actually thinking, actually saying to you on a daily basis, yearly, decades, stuff like that. Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, I think what you just said about what you just said as well about what's normal and look at the fucked up world we're in, and people seem to. It's like we've grown into this culture, or we've emerged from a culture that, and this is just an idea, that like from the religions before, where people would say you're responsible for your actions, and if you commit these 10 commandments, then like you should be punished. Whereas a lot of people in the whole world, people that I see as intelligent people, they just haven't accessed the right information, like human behavior or whatever. As soon as somebody bombs something, they just say, "Oh, that's human nature." They were just born in the wrong country, and they're taught. Well, they are. I suppose they are taught, but like, there's no other factors in the reason for them bombing or killing people. Like, a bomb blowing up at the side of somebody wouldn't affect a child or even an adult. Whereas when you try and, like, when I tried to say, look, if they started bombing the UK just to get rid of some terrorists, how would you feel then? You know what I mean? It's yeah, I feel like without human behavior being taught in schools as a science, and a better understanding of the fallacy of free will, then I think people are going to stick with the religious culture or information that's emerged.
I think that's a fair idea. It's something to take note of. Jacques Fresco previously stated also that the brain does not have a mechanism in place which determines what ideas, information, and whatever other input is relevant. It just goes all in. And dependent on the value system that you have at the time, it acts as a sort of semi-filter. But the stuff still goes in. So this is why we can have such situations where, Aiden, like you stated, my mom isn't stupid, but, and that but is precisely the little hook. So the most amazing scientists of our time, how come it takes Stephen Hawking now? It took him decades of his existence to only now state things like, we should look out for capitalism, not automation. How come? How come he's able to come up with incredible celestial body theories, but when the subject hits home, there's such great difficulty to just discover maybe bombing each other isn't really the best way to go about solving problems. See what I mean?
It's probably he's now rich.
well stated. Shit. Wait for it.
I was gonna say, like, well, we look outward to learn about inward, but hey, I go with Aiden's answer anytime.
Well, I just meant he might have thought it all along, but it's hard to speak out and it's what's going to end up paying you. So it's probably he's getting on a bit, and it's probably also the emergence of I see in memes. He might have been saying things all along, but no one picked it up, and now it suddenly gets picked up and splashed around the world 8 billion times.
Great point. Yuri?
Yeah, like Jack said, it's all about the experience. I remember an interview. The guy asked Roxanne, "Do you think Jacques is a genius?" And she said, "No, I think he had a very different background, very different experiences." And so, and Jacques also said that even scientists, they all affected by culture. They're all byproducts of culture. They may have better methods to deal with things, some things, but they still have their experiences. And some people may get some things, but completely misunderstand other things. They may be geniuses, let's say, have a lot of knowledge in some areas, but be totally off topic in other areas, let's say.
Yeah, very true, very valid. Sorry, Mick, just before you go ahead, Bill Nye the Science Guy, to me personally, is a very good example of that. However much he advocates that biologically there is no such thing as race, and I appreciate that research, but still, when it comes to engineering, he does keep coaxing the same story of, I want the America to lead people in inventions, I want America to lead people. So still a nationalist agenda or a viewpoint or whatever you want to call it, but he takes a side. Not very scientific, or at least not scientifically method related, I suppose. Sorry, Mick, go ahead.
You picked the exact, like, the other part of the pair that I was going to talk about. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's smart, and I did hear him say, somebody mentioned a resource-based economy to him, and he said, test it, tell me if it works, which I liked. But he's always spouting like democracy. He doesn't ever say competent democracy, or like forget like Obama, the leader of the nation, but like talks about God all the time, same as Putin. Like I will deliver these terrorists to God, and you think, whoa, like we've got world leaders that are still going with religion rather than science. So yeah, that's all I had to add.
Which is ironic, since the weapons that they're choosing to destroy other people with are actually created by science and technology. It's insane. The irony is not even funny anymore. So, going back to the original actual question, which was, what would be done with that percentage of society that would be agitators or malcontents, such as Timothy McVeigh, who were brought up in a normal upbringing? The official answer is, again, quite lengthy. I don't mind reading it unless there are takers.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Please.
It's quite long, so I might give someone else a go.
I'll take over, no problem.
Alright. So, TVP FAQ 83, what will be done with the percentage of society that will be agitators or malcontent, such as Timothy McVeigh, who was brought up with a normal upbringing? Your reference to people like Timothy McVeigh, who were brought up with what you call a normal upbringing, must be subject to more critical analysis. When we refer to normal as a society that is nationalist and takes by force or violence whatever is needed, it makes laws of its own interest and breaks them when they no longer serve those interests. It also limits education, especially in scientific and critical thinking. If people are not medically cared for and aren't cared about at all when the bottom line is profit, then this is truly not in the US but all countries. Behavior is generated by culture. McVeigh was reacting with tools he found appropriate to situations in the culture he felt was unjust. Mainly the bombing of the people at Oklahoma City. Our nation reacts in similar ways to countries we take issue with, but on a more massive scale. It is not the case that a certain number of people are born as malcontents or agitators, as you claim. Rather, they are reacting to conditions in a culture that they regard as unjust or inequitable. In apartheid South Africa, Nelson Mandela was considered an agitator but later became president. Hundreds of such examples can be given. We should copy that and post it on the page. I wonder why there are not millions protesting for an end to war, poverty, crime, homelessness, and scarcity when it is certainly possible to do so. It is easy to see that established governments have done a very good job in dumbing down the public, so that they accept the status quo, along with philosophical explanations to keep conditions as they are. We are trapped with inappropriate terms like malcontents or agitators when we should be looking at conditions in society that generate these behaviour. We should look for ways to change society so it could outgrow them instead of just suppressing them. It is not the business of the Venus Project to attack the belief system of other cultures or to attack the way they treat women or their values regarding other nations. This has accomplished very little. In our own nation, we mistreat Native Americans and downgraded our other belief systems without sufficiently analysing our own shortcomings. Over the centuries, nations have committed crimes against one another based upon nationalism, propaganda, and inappropriate descriptions of different sovereign nations. Since our identity as a nation is viewed in many different ways due to many years of propaganda and indoctrination, we have not evolved an objective viewpoint about our behaviour or the behaviour of other nations. I have often mentioned the criticisms of one country without offering a workable alternative accomplishes nothing. We cannot solve our problems with the same type of thinking that got us into the situation in the first place. The only true measure of a workable system is whether or not it achieves its objective ends. For centuries, nations have abused one another to the point that trusting other nations' intentions is viewed with great skepticism. We and other powerful nations have not come together to really help one another. Instead, we remove valuable resources, exploit the labour, pay off leaders to do our bidding, assassinate those who don't conform to our wishes, and use our military to enforce our economic advantages. There are some of the reasons for the difficulties. If powerful nations were to assist undeveloped countries without exploitation of resources or cheap labour, they would not be seen as a threat. As long as we continue international agreements to serve our interests only, we will be looked upon with skepticism by less developed nations. It is our national behaviour over the years that has generated skeptical attitudes about our intentions. What the Venus Project proposes is to join with other nations in restoring the damaged environment to as near as natural condition as possible, and to assist nations in overcoming scarcity. The process for accomplishing this will in and of itself generate more appropriate behaviour in our own and other nations. If you have difficulty agreeing with this analysis, let's examine some scientific principles accepted by all nations. For example, when engineers in a country wish to build a bridge, they use scientific methods and calculations to determine the design characteristics. With continuous improvements in technology, the scientific method appears to have been a saner approach. All nations use scientific methods to achieve the benefits of technology. In our present state of social development, national interests have subverted, to a large extent, the true benefits of the methods of science. This is due to nationalism and short-sighted self-interest. When scientific methods are applied intelligently for the benefits of all human and environmental concern, these methods will eventually alter the way we think about ourselves, our country, and the world around us.
Thank you. Damn, your jaws are probably gonna grow biceps of their own, man. It's very lengthy. All right. Well, let's have a look. So it seems all of us, or definitely most of us, have definitely seen that engineering the environment, as well as looking for scientific methods to understand anything at all that we have uncertainty about, will bring about something that is a saner approach, just by definition of what the scientific method can garner. Is this the gist that I'm getting? Do you guys have any other interpretations?
Yeah, I shall go through your same order again. So I think it's me first. it's very nice answer, very long. Just in the end, just kind of bigging up getting over nations for a lot of it. It to me didn't seem particularly relevant. All of this, some of it was. Past a point, you're gonna go, yeah, okay. Let's talk about in a fully formed RBE, what happens to the one guy who wants to burn down the central dome. But
Sure.
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay. Cutie?
Yeah, I think that's the gist.
Okay. Mick?
I was thinking it was quite relevant, like Aidan said about the Nelson Mandela bit going on the Facebook page. I was thinking just copy the whole question and answer, just to give it context as well. It seemed, where was it? At first he was talking about what is a normal upbringing, what you will refer to as normal is a society that is nationalist and takes by force whatever it needs. And then I think later on, it says our nation reacts in similar ways to countries we take issue with, but on a more massive scale. And it does say about like either bombing or assassinating. Yeah, instead we remove valuable resources, exploit the labour, pay off leaders to do our bidding, assassinate those who don't conform to our wishes, and use our military to enforce our economic advantages. These are some of the reasons for the difficulties. I thought that was quite relevant to the recent stuff in the Middle East and Africa and beginning to be in Europe. So yeah, I think yeah, we have to post that one soon.
Well stated. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jack does somewhere in that lengthy response nail the answer, but as I was listening to the answer, there's this one thing that kept on, just coming, hitting me on the head rather hard and nagging me. Yeah, as Jack's referring to, well, this nation and how we interact with that nation. Yeah, I don't see nations. I watched a video once of like where the borders were of countries, and and it's like, in the last 100 years, someone's made a fucking jigsaw out of like, what the planet was, and if we are thinking, oh well, this nation and that nation and this nation and that nation, it's always going to be complete bollocks. There's one planet, fuck your nation. It's just a label you've put on an area of ground. Yeah. If you want to keep your heritage, you want to remember your history, well, yeah, of course, that's fine. But, you're not going to go grouping me with any bunch of people and then calling me a nation. That's just what I wanted to say.
No, I like that. I like your tone too. Just enough of that slight anger to get the point across to maybe, I should stop smiling now. He's actually serious. No, I'm with you, definitely, of course. The more you keep propping up a visual of separation, the easier it is to believe that we are in fact separate. And no, fuck that. He's wearing that kind of cap. I'm wearing this kind of hat. Nah, it's not gonna go. Sorry, I muted just as I was saying Nick. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what Nick said about look back to your nation's heritage. Yeah, that's fair enough, and I agree with that. Like, look back to your nation's heritage, but it's not relevant to the future. It's not going to help us in any way. Going, look, we went to war, sort of thing. Because I hate it. Like World War One and Two remembrance. Yeah, it's a bad thing that happened. Yeah, maybe at the time we didn't have any other way, or we didn't have any other options, or we didn't feel that we had any other options. We couldn't work a better option out. But like, why do we have to be like proud of war, and carnivalize it almost, make it some sort of circus? Uh, I think, yeah, remember your nation's history, but think about what you need for the future without the nation's history behind you. You know what I mean? Because I read a poem called "Old Grudges" about like how the Scottish still hate the English for the things that like happened in centuries ago, and like some, I don't know how bad it is now, but like when I was growing up, the English and Germans, when they played football, they were like, "Oh, fuck the Germans, rah rah rah." And now I look back and think, "Whoa, what sort of mindset do you have to have for that?" So it's like, yeah, remember your heritage, just don't leave it in the past where it belongs. You know what I mean?
Well stated. Well stated indeed. Me personally, I was a lot more curious about the specific uh, kind of word twist. I really did enjoy. Um, it's written, it is easy to see that established governments have done a very good job in dumbing down the public so that they accept the status quo along with philosophical explanations to keep conditions as they are. I've just written down a quick, can you think of ways the UK is keeping philosophical explanations of why things must continue the way they are? Just from anybody who wants to take the mic. What are some of the slogans now recently we are hearing that are to be accepted?
I'm always reminded of the South Park episode where everyone gets into debt and Kyle does a Jesus type thing and takes everyone's debt on a credit card. It's the economy is the big faith at the moment, I think. Oh, you can't have recession. Oh, you can't, inflation's, oh, no one knows what on earth it means, but there's a big kind of faith thing.
All right, anyone?
I was going to say the newspapers, like the people I know locally. I've heard people say, "I am afraid of ISIS coming here," and I'm thinking, well, yeah, but like, have you thought about the reasons that, or like the migrants, people, the mass migration? And I'll say to people many times, can you not think of a reason why there is such mass migration or such hatred for the Western countries? Have you not noticed what's going off in that area of the world? And somebody said to me, "Oh, we know it's a shithole," as if like they didn't matter, the people didn't matter there. And like I think David Cameron on the front page is somewhere saying, "We will protect England from ISIS." How? It's like it can be any person that hates the West, and unless you're going to solve the root cause of people hating the West, then shut up, you dick.
Before anybody else chimes in, I do have to state just one thing. I was of similar disposition that ISIS just is a manufacturer of it's a blowback. So it's the effect of a cause which was collaboration between Britain, US, certain other countries which go overseas to secure oil reserves. I'm not sure if they started this way, but it's not necessarily true anymore. Their actual cause for this crusade is an ideological one, which does make the situation slightly different. All of a sudden, this is not a blowback against anything in particular. It's a blowback against your values as people, other than what we believe. So if you do not accept Allah as the only God and Muhammad as his prophet, we will fuck you up. And this kind of logic is different and is perhaps in its own right more scary, because this in fact says, just like the brown people in the 60s and 50s must have felt, which is, if you're not of us, you're going down. And I mean, try to have some security in your own brain with that kind of threat, you know? There's nothing you can do. You can't even secure a fucking facial reconstruction surgeon to change your pigments inside your skin cells. So there's not much escape, is what I'm saying. But sorry, other than that, Nick, go ahead.
Sorry, Nick. Could I just quickly add on? I think you make a good kind of distinction to try and separate them there, Lewis. But I think it's not separated really. Like they might not say they're doing it because of that, but the situations have come about that's driven them into a corner where they've got nothing to lose, and you get radicalized is the word that everyone's using, and that can come from having your parents bombed for oil. Like so, because they're not experts in human behavior either. They're not going to say, "Oh, we're doing this because of this." They'll just be like, "Ah."
Fair, I accept that. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, like if you're in the UK, like Mick said, like the papers, you know, like the television, the absolutely everything that's thrown at you, you know, and all the disinformation, because it doesn't really matter what country you're in, does it? You're just fed shit. So, you know, I mean, I don't know what the latest propaganda is because, like, I don't take any notice of it because, like, it's just shit. Why would I pay attention to it? You know? I mean, I hear the government often say that they're going to use their money to do this and give it to local council. They're going to give this much, and local council is going to give that much to create this thing. Right? The government is giving my money back to me. The local council is giving my money back to me to do something that they haven't consulted me about doing, that they think is going to improve something that they want, yeah? And it's only going to cost me a little bit more on my council. I've paid for the whole fucking lot. It's all my money. The government can't put their money here and there and use the council's money to put it. It's all our fucking money, yeah? And they're being benevolent. Are they? Fuck, right? You made a valid point though about ISIS, where you know it's an ideology in the Quran, you know, basically kill all the infidels. And if you are a radicalized terrorist, you will read that and say, it says kill all the infidels, so therefore all you lot, you're all dead. You know, as simple as that. You know, we're all infidels. When the Quran was written, it was a little bit clearer who the infidels were, and they were a whole heap closer. Yeah, and it was not necessarily referring to the global, you know, the rest of the world as they knew it. Yeah, it was just like the people that were actually fucking them up. Yeah. If you're a Christian, and you know, whichever, some strain of Christianity, they'll say, oh well, I think it might be Jehovah's Witnesses, it might be whoever, I don't bloody know, yeah. But it's like, oh well, we refer to the Old Testament, yeah. That's the one where if you don't worship our God, the one, if you worship any false idols, we're going to strike you down. It's the same fucking doctrine, yeah. And strangely enough, the Muslims and the Islamic people that aren't hell-bent on killing everybody accept that that passage doesn't mean kill everyone who isn't your fucking brother or in your club. Yeah? And a lot of old writings, a lot of statistics, a lot of things can be interpreted any way you bloody please if you think, I want to use it to justify this. You know? But I just put this forward, yeah? If I was walking to the corner shop every day and it happened to be like 30 miles away, and I might get some water from it if I was lucky, but more likely I'd get bombed on the way or someone was going to shoot me. And someone said to me, here, strap this bomb to yourself, go and blow them up, you'll be rewarded in the afterlife. Well, if it's 50-50 whether I get through the day, I might go for it. Yeah. If I'm sitting in warmth and comfort, doing exactly what I please, having fun, and someone says, "Here, strap this bomb to yourself and go and blow yourself up, and blow these people up because I don't like them," yeah, I'd be a little bit, can I not do that next week maybe, or the week after? Because I'm kind of fully booked at the moment. I'm going to go swimming, I'm going to go surfing in Australia tomorrow, and then I've got a round the Gulf in Scotland the day after. Then I'm having breakfast in France the day after that, and back to Australia. I'm a bit busy. Can we not fit it in a bit later? Seriously, we fix the fucking world. If everyone just says, let's fix the world, then everyone is empowered to fix their local problems. Easy, sorted. It'd be well problem solved in the morning. What we're going to do in the afternoon? Oh, let's all go and get drunk.
Well stated, Nick. Jesus. Well done. Really, really cool critical points. So I think, Mick, you had a point. And also, before you do go ahead, since we are running semi-late, I'm just curious, after what you speak your piece, maybe we all decide whether we want to answer the last question or perhaps we want to postpone it for the next week. All right? Go ahead, Mick.
I was just going to try and keep this quick. I just wanted to clarify that, I understand it's not just like economic deprivation and bombing in that area of the world that's causing people to kill people. There is like religious ideology in there, so yeah.
All right, that's fair. Well, I hadn't suggested a 30-second speed round, so how many of you would like to attempt such a challenge? All right, Mick's down. Hughie, Nick. Well, all right, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, I'm first on the list, aren't I? So.
No, I am. Unless you're doing it on.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Do it from that list.
Do I get a counting?
Yeah. Okay. Question.
Yeah. Question.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Question 84. What about crimes of jealousy? Go.
Right, education from a young age would help reduce these crimes. Understanding and manage our emotions is as important as reading and writing. And I did leave science off the list on purpose because you've got to read and write to study science. I'm really good at these 30-second rounds. Over to you. Padding.
Nice. Hey, if it's short, it's fine. I said... Oh god, okay. I said there will be arrests, crimes of jealousy will be stopped or slow less of them by a greater understanding of human behavior and what causes behavior, so you'll be able to understand what can drive people into situations so you don't react in that way. Plus, we can design retractable knives that recognize your loved ones and don't stab them.
Oh shit! I would say that with a better education of human behavior, we may understand more about the hormones that cause things such as jealousy, and, like I'm beginning to do, learn to balance these hormones in ways that suit us individually.
Okay. No, I'm not going to make the 30 seconds, but all I can say is you engineer the environment to get what you want out of it. If what we as people decide that we want is to live sustainably and not to kill each other, then there are ways to do so scientifically. That's it.
Curie?
Okay. I would say like treat people in the same way, give them the same opportunity. Don't prefer one over the other. Then you create jealousy. So engineer the environment to produce that. So provide to everyone, to provide access and opportunities for everyone, I would say.
Good stuff. Well, Thomas, I didn't mention we have another member joining. Thomas did join us, but he said he's at work and listening. Thomas, are you able to speak and answer?
Yes, I'm able to speak.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just read it through. The jealousy during or after the transition. During the transition, there will be crime, there will be other problems. But once we pass that period, conditions responsible for jealousy will be outgrown. Because if everyone has access to whatever they need, whenever they need, there is no base for jealousy. And I think this kind of explanation makes sense to some people who are already familiar with TVP, but I'm not really sure if someone who is not familiar with TVP would understand these answers. I don't know.
Well stated. And I think it's a problem with many, many topics, not just this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I suppose I'll just try to quickly read the official answer. TVP FAQ number 84. What about crimes of jealousy? The way people are raised in the Venus Project is different than they are today. Jealousy with love relationships would be dealt with in early education. People would learn how to relate to one another and obtain a relevant language, not based so much on feeling tone, but on how well the relationship works. Relationships would be based upon being helpful to one another and the community. People are not objects of passion. Marriage and engagement do seem to produce aberrant behavior and possessiveness. People will do whatever they need to, but if they examine their own values closely, they will find that a lot of decisions they arrived at were superimposed by their environment. With a better understanding of semantics, communications, and relating to one another in constructive, non-competitive ways, many of the aberrant behaviors will diminish. Today, people are not exposed to other methods of relating to one another during their education. It is more traditional rather than rational. Passiveness is not something one usually outgrows unless they become better informed as to their own behavioral limitations. Possessiveness is mainly an expression of insecurity or a low self-sufficiency. It is not possible in those questions to go into this fully. All right. Well, I mean, do any of you wish to come up with questions, or do you have suggestions?
Well, I would just say there was a couple of questions ago we were kind of berating the questioner for saying the Venus Project when they meant a research-based economy, and actually they said they did the exact same thing in the first sentence. So I don't know. We'd have to try and understand. It's sometimes hard to separate these two, even though we know the differences.
True. Also, just so that everybody is actually invited to participate, things like this and other very clear concepts or grammatical issues are actually invited to be scrutinized and then corrected, and then, if possible, submitted in a list of errors and grammar errors and concept errors that you may notice directly to either the Venus Project themselves directly or the administration of the Venus Project. That's something I've heard directly from the admins of the Venus Project. So you're all invited. If you do see things like this, please do take note, make note, and submit it so that it can be corrected for better use.
Sorry, just adding to that really quickly. I know we're basically finished now, but I actually created a column in the sheet for basically exactly this thing. So I'm just typing it in now, and as we go along, that's the place to do it, and we can just go through at the end and just collate them all. I know we're like 90% of the way through. I should have made this much clearer earlier on.
Oh, thanks. That's still useful. Thanks.
Yeah, on this particular subject, I understand like what Thomas was saying about the jealousy side with possessions and things. I've had problems with jealousy in my past, and until I learned about human behaviour, I had no idea what was going off. The things that went off in my head, crazy shit. I made people's lives a fucking living hell at points. I feel really ashamed of it, but since I learned about human behaviour, it's helped me understand why I felt jealous. That the things in my head were just caused by hormones, and so I've learned to balance how much I see people in regards to the relationship kind of jealousy, and it seems to be working so far. So as an individual test, it's going well. So I think, yeah, teaching people early on, I thought that was a brilliant idea. Teaching kids early on that like people are not objects of possession. Like, cause especially in this society, if you've got an object of possession, a guitar or anything, you lock it up, you put alarms on it. You can't do that with a person. So,
Nick?
There's a lot of we put a lot of our self-esteem on what other people think of us in this society, you know, and that in itself, you know, can help breed the jealousy. If the neighbours have got something really, you know, big and shiny and you haven't, you know, you feel like you're not in their club, you know. You can get the big and shiny thing too, and then, like, you know, you feel equal and you feel better about yourself, and then you can, like, look over the garden fence at each other and go, oh, look at my shiny thing, oh yes, I've got a shiny thing too, oh, they're lovely, that's lovely and shiny, yeah, that's lovely and shiny, you know. And then the person who lives next door, you know, to you, he hasn't got a shiny thing, so he thinks wankers, you know. And he's like, right, when they're asleep, I'm going to nick their shiny thing, so I'm going to be important, you know. And we fear him because he's going to take our shiny thing, and we can't get another shiny thing because we've worked all our life for this shiny thing, you know. It's stupid, you know. Once you eliminate, you know, that, I mean, yeah, like, if us guys here, we meet up on here every week, we chat, yeah, and it's great, yeah. Now, if it was like, oh right, well, we're all round Aidan's house this week, then we're round at Mick's next week, and then we're all going to go and see Huey, and you know, and yeah, we're all round each other's houses. It'd be like, oh well, hang on, oh well, I don't know, I'm not sure I know him that well, you know. Now that'd be cool because we're in the Venus Project. Yeah, but what if, you know, and you know, and I better hide my porn, and you know, and there's all these other things come into your head just for fear, essentially, of loss or what the people will think of you. Yeah, you look at a resource-based society, you know, and like, if we want to do the meeting round here, then come round here. I've either got the space or I haven't. You know, you're not going to steal anything. You know, if I've got space where you guys can sleep, you can sleep. If I haven't, you can't, but there'll be space somewhere else nearby. You know, less of this fear is put into you, and less of, you know, because if you can get the shiny thing, and you can all get the shiny thing, what is there to be jealous of? You're not going to nick my shiny thing, you know? So it's kind of simple. I don't know why we make it all so complicated. It's kind of easy. We should be there after the transition now, you know? It wouldn't be a day too soon.
Here, go ahead.
I would like to add that maybe the mechanistic point of view, if you learn that the conditions and the chain of events that led to someone having something, and maybe you don't, not having something, you kind of think, okay, you don't act like emotionally, but you think, okay, I don't have this because simply it didn't happen in this chain of events. The conditions were not right. I didn't have the money. My mother didn't have the money, or whatever. I didn't have the. There was no stores nearby, whatever. So, and they did. So it's maybe understanding that the chain of events, like seeing it through a mechanistic point of view, may help to really think, okay, why don't I have this? why they have that, and okay, they have that because this and that, and I don't have this because this. Okay, can I fix this? Act upon the problem. And not, oh, I don't have that, I'm so bad. But really, what can I do to have that? Or do I need that? Really ask questions and track the chain of events.
Yeah, I would agree. I would first like to remark, Nick, when you say that it's very simple, it doesn't have to be complex. I personally put, I think, too much pressure even on myself. I'm first going to refer to me because I too often say things like people like to or people do. Well, no, I'll just point the finger at me first and then not generalize so much. Um, it's something to do with maybe reading a few too many books, a few too many documentaries. You try to sound like what you read or what you hear, try to be this intellectual or try to reflect what you've read, just to, as though, again, in a way to prove to others that I have indeed read a few letters combined. They made sentences. I want to sound like Russell Brand. Shit like that, you know what I mean? So in a way, I think I just appreciate this very simple example you gave, and I think that's, to me personally, why I started even looking into what Jacques is talking about in the first place. He addresses the root causes of many, many, many problems. Deep, difficult, complex, but in such rational and simple ways that they not only make sense, they don't alienate you as a person who may not know so much about these things. So it's a very welcome addition. As to Huri, um, I couldn't have added anything better myself. It's exactly that, trying to examine precisely where may I have stepped into shit and not trying to blame the person who I'm standing next to saying, no, you put the shit on my shoe here. You know, try to examine your, backtrack your steps is all I'm saying. Perhaps I could work on my grammar a bit, but the thought is all the same still. Does anybody have anything other to add? And also, I do have to state that my multitasking is really rather shit because I know, Nick, you've written something in the chat that I can't do both things at once.
You do fine, man. You do fine. You know, we're all men. We can. The only multitasking apparently we can do is we can drink beer and watch a football, but beyond that, it's not possible.
I appreciate your understanding. All right. Well, with that, anybody who is or is going to or might want to watch this, please do leave comments if you do. Always interested to hear how we could improve this process, or if any of you find it confusing or the show is too long or what have you. It'd be interesting to engage. Otherwise, next week, hopefully, if we're still going to air this, the frequently asked questions will be 85, 86, and 87. We hope to do a better job than we did today. Thanks a lot. Take care.